Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands we're joining from today.
I'm joining from Lisarow on the lands of the Darkinjung people.
And I am joining from the lands of the Nyungbul people of the Bundjalung Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We acknowledge their deep and ongoing connection to land, waters, language and culture, and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome to Femmebot, where we talk to the women building the future of tech and brand from the inside out. Today's guest is proof that B2B marketing doesn't have to be boring. Cath Brands is the Chief Marketing Officer at Flintfox International, a global pricing and revenue management platform serving enterprise businesses across the world. Cath brings deep experience in scaling B2B marketing teams and aligning brand strategy directly with commercial results. Since joining Flintfox, she's transformed the company's marketing approach by simplifying complex messaging and repositioning Flintfox as a profit optimization engine and an absolute necessity.
From AI-driven campaigns to streamlining Flintfox's go-to-market strategy, Cath is showcasing how marketers can lead at the table and not just support it. Welcome, Cath. Great name, by the way.
Brands by name, brands by trade.
We start each episode out starting with your journey. So can you just start for our audience and let everyone know how you actually got into enterprise tech? I know your background, you came from more kind of consumer brands. So how did you end up in enterprise tech?
Yeah, so my story is a little bit of a crazy one. So, started my career in alcohol, actually, and hard liquor. So literally I started at Lion Nathan, and then I moved on to a company that was a distributor for Jim Beam, Absolute Vodka, and the Famous Grouse. And I moved with them to Scotland and then moved down to London and did the thing. And I worked for Pepsi or Britvic and then to Coca-Cola, moved back to Australia with Coca-Cola. And then when I went to work for Westfield, and when I was living in the Shire, very proud to have lived in the Shire. I was working on the Westfield Miranda redevelopment, Miranda Fair,
Oh, wow.
which was a very fun project to work with. Randomly, just completely out of the blue, I saw this. I actually even think it was a newspaper clipping of a job title, and it said that Amazon was coming to Australia and it was doing sort of speed interviewing. And so I thought, okay, I'll give this a go, submitted my CV. They're like, yeah, we want to meet you. And it was this weird kind of thing where they wanted to do meet and greet on the Sunday and then do speed interviewing the next day on the Monday. And I was really, really hungover on Sunday. And I was like, I don't know, my husband, my now husband was like, go on, just give it a go, suck it up, you'll be fine. I was like, awkward conversation, not feeling great with a bunch of tech nerds. How's this going to go? Anyway, showed up to the drinks, met some wonderful people. Next day, went through this 5 rounds of speed interviewing and they offered me a job on the spot. They were like, we don't know what job you're going to do yet, but we think that there's something about you and not knowing anything about tech that's kind of interesting to us. And I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, do you want to move to Seattle? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Got no kids, got no dogs, got no responsibility, just got, this lovely life in the Shire. Anyway, I'm a Kiwi. Couldn't get a visa for the US. And so I ended up in Luxembourg, of all places in the world.
Oh, wow.
Where I started my sort of tech career journey and worked on this random product that Amazon had launched that was called Amazon Payments. And was basically this concept of using your Amazon credentials to log in and pay on third-party websites. And the whole idea was kind of a little bit crazy, right? Like, who would want to give up that important real estate on their business, another online retailer, to Amazon? But turns out loads of fashion brands did. And yeah, that's where my sort of tech career started. And then the plan was always to move to Seattle. And after nearly 2 years in Luxembourg, managed to relocate to the US. And I worked on this very, very cool project, which the point in time when I was recruited, it was all top secret and no one could know what it was. And we were hidden away in this basement, which was off the South Lake Union campus of Amazon. And you couldn't get in and get out without high security. It was all very, very crazy. Anyway, it turned out it was Amazon Go, the world's first store with no checkouts, where you walk in, walk out and go. And I was one of 2 other marketing people who had been brought on to do this project. And so we had to figure everything out, from the way we hung posters in the store, which couldn't just be on paper. They had to be printed on magnets, because they couldn't have a shimmer on them, because if they had a shimmer on them, they'd interfere with the tech. And if they interfered with the technology, then someone could take something off the shelf and the camera wouldn't pick it up, and then it would be, deemed as a stolen product. So I spent, 5 years, it's dog years at Amazon. So 35 years at Amazon before.
What?
But no, it's a pretty rough environment. It's pretty tough. It's a pound of flesh, but amazing. And then I transitioned over to Microsoft, and Microsoft is probably one of the most beautiful, amazing businesses I've ever had the privilege to work on. And they have this amazing CEO, and Satya is all about the growth mindset, and talk about the way of leading from the top and taking a man who has children with disabilities. He actually lost his son recently as well. He led with empathy and he led with vision, and it was a privilege to work underneath him. And it taught me so much about working hard, but making sure you do that with the right sort of ethos and humanity behind you, and amazing opportunities.
Where were you working for Microsoft? Was that in the States?
In Seattle, based in Seattle.
As well. Wow. What era was that? Around what years was it when you were in Seattle?
I moved to Seattle in 2014 and had both my kids in the US, and then we left. I left Microsoft in 2021 to move to Flintfox. So it was a good run of big tech.
It's just, it's good to get a time perspective of when that was happening. It must have been really exciting at that time.
Totally. And, the share prices was rocketing. It was just such a fun place to be. So after Microsoft, it was actually the middle of COVID, just had a baby, and I was in hotel quarantine in New Zealand because my sister was getting married. And I got a call from Flintfox, and I knew the CEO at the time, and he rang me to say, hey, we've been bought by private equity. Do you want to come over and work for us? And I was like, are you crazy? I work for Microsoft and I live in Seattle. Anyway, he's like, he kind of has some terms and conditions, what would it take to get you back here? And one of the things that managed to, get me over the line to come back is the New Zealand government. They have this part of their business which is called New Zealand Trade and Enterprise. And what that is it sponsors great New Zealand businesses to thrive and grow overseas. And so we had a fund, or the company had a fund or a grant from NZTE, and it managed to sponsor me to come back, to move to this side of the world to take on this role. And it's been an amazing journey for the last 4 years. And not only did it get me closer to home, and now living in Cairns with my, mother and father-in-law living just down the road to help bring up the kids. And I have this big global role, so I still get to travel the world and do what I love to do. Be a B2B marketer in a really kind of dry space of pricing and rebates. But, you make it fun and exciting. That's what marketers do. We make every category fun and exciting.
Yeah, but to give you credit, some marketers don't, and you've done and you're a really incredible job of that. So hats off to you. So for people that don't know what Flintfox is, can you do a very quick overview of what it is and, how they expanded globally?
Yeah, look, I bet no one knows what Flintfox is, but let me tell you what it is. Flintfox is a pricing and rebates software platform, and we help businesses who have really complex pricing. So it could be a manufacturer, it could be a retailer, an FMCG organization, a wholesale distributor. And if they've got really complex pricing, rebates, promotions, and they need help to manage that in a single platform that allows them to model, where they're losing margin, where they can optimize their pricing, and then to execute that it could be the shelf tag, it could be to a catalog, it could be to a website. So we basically facilitate all the complexity and automate those processes. So every time you execute a price, you'll know you're hitting the margin targets that you want to go after.
And what's been the biggest shift from working, just say, from Microsoft and Amazon across to Flintfox?
Yeah, this is the first non-Fortune 500 company I've ever worked for, right? So it was a massive mind shift in so many ways. Like, there was no people, there's like 90 people inside of my organization. And also it was just, one of the things I loved was getting rid of the bureaucracy and the layers of approval and the ability to move a lot quicker. But I've always worked for platform businesses. And so Microsoft and Amazon, they are the platforms that people like Flintfox plug into, right? So I went from being the person who was in charge of saying, you can do that, to being the person saying, Microsoft, please look at me. Look, I'm over here. Look at all these great things that I can do. And the way in which we sort of went to market behind that was we fell, Flintfox as a company was classic tech organization. We fell privy to this world where you love to talk in complex jargon and you're very product centric and not problem centric. And so the big job at hand was to take a product which was highly complex, but ground it in problems and solutions that you solve and wrap it up in a beautiful B2C storytelling mindset with a pretty website that was intuitive and very visual and said what it did on the tin versus you having to click 50 layers deep to get an understanding of who you are and what you do.
When we were doing our research about you, Cath, it was really interesting that it looks as though you came into the business. Obviously, it wasn't an easy sell, and you've come in and you've sort of repositioned Flintfox as a profit optimization engine, which Kat and I really loved, because that's what we do through our storytelling for brands like Microsoft and other tech brands. It's always, with a focus on the end user and really simplifying that messaging. Can you talk us through how you approached it? Because it must have been quite overwhelming coming into that. And it was quite a different departure from where you were.
Yeah, exactly. And also for me, I've sort of always been on the tools, but now I'm on the tools. It's like understanding the backing of a website. It's choosing what marketing automation platform you're going to use. It's making decisions around SEO, SEM, digital demand gen, the whole lot. And so my sort of process was this. Like you said, I walked in, I was like, deer in headlights. Where do you even start with this orange fox? It had a fox on it, and the name Flintfox means nothing. And so the first thing I did was, it was an audit, right? It was to understand what was working and what wasn't working. And did I say just what wasn't and what wasn't working? Yes, because nothing what really was working, right? The second part of this process was speaking to current customers and understanding what their need was and how Flintfox helps them, and then unpicking all of that right down to, 10,000 foot, 5,000 foot, and then 1,000 foot value proposition, which is almost like the product positioning or the product features positioning. And then it was wrapping that all up in a story, not only from a visual perspective, because we needed to look like grown-ups and we didn't look like a grown-up, and it wasn't accessible. It was orange on white. And so it was then taking the premises of the storytelling, putting a visual identity model on top of it, and then creating content that was easy to understand, because the people who did understand, the pricing people, they got it when it said revenue growth management. But the category issue that we have is that people don't recognize they have a problem with pricing, and that they think that managing their pricing in Excel is completely normal. And so it's my job to say to them, no, that's not normal. You can't do it that way. This is the way that, it needs to be done. And I'll be honest with you, I am a B2C classically trained marketer. So I brought in a B2C agency to work alongside of me. I brought in a big creative agency from London that I'd worked with when I was at Coca-Cola. I brought in a PR and corp comms agency that I've been working with, who are based in London for 22 years. I've been working with these guys for. And then I brought in a local Australian media agency to kind of dissect the market for me globally, and then figure out where the opportunity was and what we needed to do to rebuild a website from scratch, to basically rebirth a brand from scratch and start in a category that hadn't really been touched by marketing. And what's really interesting is now the competitors have all kind of woken up and like, oh, maybe marketing does play a big role in driving growth inside of a business. It's taking the principles of what we do in B2C and applying them in B2B. but with a lot more rigor, because in B2B, obviously what we care about is the margin, driving leads to the top of the funnel. It's not like getting a person to buy another packet of Kit Kats. It's really, really tangible. But the LTV of our customer, you're talking like millions of dollars versus, the 55 cents that you make on a bag of Tim Tams.
How did those agencies go with that pivot?
They struggled, man, but they loved it because it's so hard, right? And I just remember I had this incredible strategist, and she's worked on Brewdog and all sorts of really cool, like Puma, all these amazing, really funky consumer brands. And then you throw her into this world of pricing, and, the head spinning was like, oh, but then applying the same principles and the same process that a creative agency goes through, it worked. It's just highly technical, and it's trying to figure out the words that turn something technical into something really easy to understand. And you know what a strategist is like. They love it when it's hard and meaty, and these guys just really got behind it. And then from a brand design perspective, just even thinking about the storytelling, like how do you bring to life a pricing platform and make it look sexy, and how do you make interesting, engaging content around it in a very, very dull audience, right? And it's a tough brief for them, but they can kind of do the other stuff with their eyes closed, where they really have to put some like a proper thinking hat on to deal with B2B.
What would be your best advice to perhaps marketers that haven't worked in a B2B space before? Because a lot of people do think it's a lot drier and that there are real rules around what you can do. What do you say to that?
Yeah, see, I don't really like rules, full stop. I find them more of like a guideline. It's probably a personality thing more than anything else. But I think the thing about B2B is it's really, really hard because the concept is niche and technical. But the thing about it is that the magic of marketing is unlocking that hardness and turning it into something that even your granny can understand, right? The classic granny test. And yes, it is drier because you're not going to put Snoop Dogg in your TVC. You're not even going to do a TVC. You're not even going to do a radio ad or a billboard. What you are going to do is you're going to have a website that is a place that it's going to be the Bible. It's going to be the end point of everything that happens on your brand where you convert to. It's not like a place where you go on and buy something and you don't go deep on it. We have people who click 50 layers deep onto our website, which as a marketer, we don't go more than like 2 pages, right? Full stop at anything that we do. And so what I would say is that if you're ready for a challenge, if you're ready to think differently, if you're ready to truly understand, and if you love data and analytics and understanding how a single Google AdWord can drive to a $2 million customer acquisition, then you're going to love it. Then you're going to love B2B. If you like pictures and rainbows and you're more of a brand marketer and like the touch, feel and do marketing, then this probably is a little bit dry for you.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Can you talk about, because you've been a massive champion of AI early on as well, so can you talk about your use of AI and automation within this whole space as well?
Yeah, totally. So my AI journey is kind of a funny one, right? So as a product of Microsoft, when Satya made the announcement, whatever, it's going back like 2, maybe 3 years ago, I was like, yeah, here we go. Another smoke and mirrors concept, like IoT, like this, all the other things that I was part of Microsoft announcements that was sort of a half-baked idea. And then the conversation didn't seem to go away. And I was like, okay, whatever. Anyway, then our CEO, who is, the best boss in the world, he brought in a guy that used to work for him back in the day at EYOB, a guy in Melbourne called Ben. And Ben is like an AI early adapter, like a proper AI nerd. And he came in to our exec meeting and he gave a 30-minute presentation on all the things you need to know about AI and be thinking about around AI. And he started showing, these tools, these marketing tools around image creation and video and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. And we were private equity owned, so I wasn't getting any more people on my team. I have 3, it's just me and 2 others, right? And so I needed to find a way to be able to grow our business, to scale internationally and go to markets. So Germany is another big market for us, and do it with, with no people, basically, no headcount. And so I had a follow-up call with Ben, and he kind of gave me, the names of a couple of other marketing tools. And with AI in it. And I was like, right, this is my new mission. My new mission is to make sure that 60% of my team, or 60% of the time that my team is spending is using a tool that is using AI. And we got to that milestone pretty quickly, right? It's, every ChatGPT, I call her Dollface. She's one of my best mates. And we chat all the time about stuff. And it's just like noodling on taking really complex stuff that we do and making it simple and understandable. And the interesting thing is that when you start using ChatGPT to write copy for your website, you're feeding the beast. And so that now that 30% of SEO has now diminished since ChatGPT has been now put in front of Google search. At least every time someone's searching or Googling price management tools, Flintfox comes up. So at the same time I'm learning and riffing with Dollface GPT, we're optimizing, the algorithm in the back end so that we surface higher. So that was one thing. The other game changer for us was from a content production perspective. So we produce this bi-weekly vodcast, and it's typically for just on LinkedIn. It's called Power to the Pricing People. And what we do is we take all the news across the globe, the headlines around pricing, and you'd be surprised, there was 247 articles last week alone.
Wow.
And we distill that into a 60 to 90 second roundup of all the things happening in pricing. Now, this would usually take me half a day because I'd sit here like I am with you guys. I'd set up my phone and my camera, and I'd learn the script off by heart, and I'd be talking, and then I'd say something wrong and I'd have to record again and again and again. And some days I wouldn't have my hair done, or I would have been for a run and I'm all sweaty and hot, and you can see the old videos. I just look like shit in these videos. Anyway, there just needed to be a better way to do this. And so now we use this incredible AI tool, and now we can pump out this video, not just in English, but in 55 different languages.
Yeah, wow.
And it's good. It's good content, right? And it's just saved me so much time. So it's just been an absolute game changer from time and efficiency, and also from a quality perspective as well.
And what's it like? Because I know that a lot of, especially creatives, are afraid of those kind of apps and the way that it connects with the target markets and the audiences. What have you found? Is that connection, is it still there using a program like Hey Jen?
Look, at the end of the day, and excuse my French, it's still shit in, shit out, right? So if you chuck crap in to the AI, it's just going to pump out crap. So I don't think we're ever going to go away. Like, original thoughts and original ideas are still which makes marketing content interesting and exciting. It's just a tool to enable it to be more streamlined, more concise and clearer, right? Because as humans, we overcomplicate things in our brain. All this doing is taking our original thoughts and ideas and turning it into something that sounds more succinct and clearer, so that the content is more relevant and more engaging.
Yeah. No, for sure. Flipping a bit here and just like coming from a more personal place, moving from obviously you were in retail and product into the tech space. Have you found that challenging being a woman? And obviously it's more predominantly you're working with more male colleagues, but especially in senior leadership as you've sort of moved up and up and up. Have you found that to be a challenge?
It's one of those funny things. I grew up in New Zealand, and when I grew up in New Zealand, we had 2 female prime ministers when I was in, my prime teenage years. I'm also from a household of 4 girls, and my dad never, ever believed that I couldn't do anything because I was a girl, right? So I come from this world where I've never felt like I was at a disadvantage because I was a female, right? And maybe that was just my naivety and my mindset. But as I've got older, and as I've probably become more mature and more aware, and because I now have a daughter as well, especially as I've got higher into these bigger tech organizations, mansplaining is the one thing that I absolutely freaking hate, right? Like, you don't have to mansplain me. I get it. Just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I don't understand. So the mansplaining doesn't seem to stop at any level, but I think the mansplaining is just insecurity wrapped in a different format. When these females who are quite opinionated and quite outspoken walk into the room, what is the default mechanism? Well, I need to over-explain everything that I'm talking about. And so I guess in saying that, it's something that I'm acutely aware of, and I've just decided to own it. Like, there are days where I'm the only female in a room. There are weeks where I'm the only female in the room. And there's 2 ways I can go about this. I can either fall victim to it, or I can just be like, I am who I am. You either like me or you don't like me. But I know that the only reason that I've got to this point is because I'm as old as I am, right? And I've been at this for so long and I've been in so many situations. But I'll never forget the moment where it kind of happened to me. And it was a moment where I won't give the examples, I was in a meeting with a CEO, and it was actually the female I was with who was my skip level by about 3. I went to say something and she put her hand in front of me to say, no, 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 don't talk. And I was like, what?
Wow.
How deep? And what I said in that moment of her putting my hand out is something that the CEO still says today on stage in multiple things, which is retail is both an art and a science, right? And the fact that that happened to me and it was a female doing that to me, that was my moment of liberation, where I was like, you know what? You either like me or you hate me. And I'm just me. I'm just Cath from little old Masterton in New Zealand. And I love marketing and I love tech. And I'm just going to own it. I'm just going to own it. And I'm sorry, but not sorry.
Love that story. Just to quickly, I would love to hear how do you handle when you're being mansplained to? What did you just listen, or do you have a tip?
Or any advice for women that are in that situation? Because it obviously happens quite often.
And look, some days I'm like, good on you, mate. Just let them mansplain. And like, okay, that's fantastic. If you get me on a day that I can't handle it, I'm like, yeah, I understand. I'm not a child. And that instant moment, or I've often said to them, you don't have to mansplain me. I get it. I get it. And I think when you call them on the behavior, they're like, oh shit, sorry, I didn't mean to. I didn't realize I was mansplaining. I don't think it comes from a bad place. I think it comes from a place of uncomfortableness and not feeling comfortable in their own skin. And when you call them on it, they're like, oh, because what I often think about is you're someone's dad or you're someone's son and you love your mum. Or maybe you don't, or you love your daughter, or you love your wife, right? Like and you don't speak to them like that, so why should you speak to me like that? So I often find that if you call them, and I kind of lean into it, being an Antipodean, being from Australia and New Zealand, we are known for being quite casual. Saying to something, yeah, you don't have to mansplain me, and you can say it in a way which is lighthearted, I think it takes the sting off the call.
100%.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And I guess just finally, I think what advice would you give to, someone coming from that more kind of creative marketing side and stepping into that tech world? What would you say to them? How would you tell them to get prepared?
So technology needs creativity. There's no two ways about it. Like the best technology brands are great storytellers, and they need us. They need us more than we need them. No, they need us. Yes. Let's put it that way. They need us more than we need them. And I think what you just have to be ready for, and this is not a bad thing as a marketer, is when you walk into a world of big metrics really matter and people really care about the numbers, and it's very different. It's not so much about how you make them touch and feel as classic trained brand marketers, which we care about. It's around the action that they create, right? So the action that they create needs to lead to a lead or a qualified lead or a sale. And remember that these sales are harder to get. They're more niche, but they're worth a lot more than, buying a chocolate bar on the shelf. And so as a creative marketer, have the confidence to know that you are a secret weapon inside of this business, which is very insular and product and data-driven and focused. You bring a fresh lens of creativity and storytelling that is going to unlock this product or this brand into future growth. But at the same time, you have to be prepared to be more accountable and more data-driven, which doesn't come naturally to us at all. And you have to work really, really hard at it. But the wonderful thing is that there's a bunch of AI tools that can help you be really good at data if you're not good at data.
Yeah,
Great.
That's so true.
That's such a great answer. And this is just the question that we ask everyone on the podcast because we find it super interesting. But how do you use AI in your everyday life?
Hey, look, Dollface GPT, it's just everything. I've got a friend in the UK and he doesn't like to fly. And he wants to come and visit us in Cairns. And so he has to figure out a way by not using an airplane to get to us, who do you ask? You ask Dollface GPT and she gives you the route, right? And the other thing, so I've got my daughter turned 9 yesterday and she goes to this very cool school and her teacher's amazing. Miss Bosingham is just the coolest teacher ever. And on a Friday afternoon, they get free time. And the free time is they get to play on their laptop and do something. And so my daughter's really into Canva. She's 9. She's a brewing marketer. And she came home the other day and she's like, hey, Mum, have you seen the new AI tools on Canva? They are so cool. I wanted her to draw a rabbit with a hat on that was a DJ. And then, she shows me this picture of this AI thing that Canva has built for us. So even thinking that the way it's building itself into our kids' lives is super interesting, yet super scary. But it's just a tool. It's just a tool to enable us to be more focused.
We've lost
We've
you.
just lost you.
We lost your audio.
No.
How weird. Oh, no. The tech has malfunctioned.
Right at the end.
Can't hear anything. That is bizarre. Can't hear anything. I mean,
Kath,
we've got most of
we've
it.
got everything. Do you want us to? We'll just wrap it up and
We can't hear you at all. We'll include this in the podcast. As we were talking up tech, Kath's tech failed and her audio has gone, but we thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. It's okay. I think we got it all. I mean, we'll just wave and say thank you so much, Cath Brands, for joining us. And hopefully AI will in the future be able to sort this exact situation so that we don't have audio malfunctions. We will hit you on the flip side. Thanks, Cath.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
Kath. It's been
We
such a
love talking
pleasure.
to you.
Yeah, it was
Bye-bye.
amazing. Thanks. Kath, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. And I love how you push that B2B marketing needs creatives in it. I think what you're saying is something that we really believe in, especially with our enterprise clients. Thank you again so much and look forward to another conversation in the future.
So that's it for this episode of Femmebot, the podcast powering women in tech. If you liked what you heard, hit subscribe and share.